How do you get into photography school? That is the question we're going to address in this video. So you have been thinking about applying to photography school, but you have questions. And so did I about 4 years ago when I was at exactly that same point and I wanted to get into photography school here in Berlin, but I didn't have any idea where to start. But I managed to successfully apply, and now 4 years later, I'm here about to finish my photography degree. So now I want to spill the tea, spill all my secrets, and share with you all the things that I wish I knew back then. I structured this video into 4 parts to address the 4 major questions that you might have. Part 1, how do you find the right photography school for you? Part 2, how do you prepare your first portfolio? Part 3, what makes a good CV and cover letter for your application? And Part 4, how do you nail the interview in person once you get invited? Let's start with Part 1, finding the right photography school for you. So the first thing I would do, and which I did 4 years ago, is to actually research all the photography schools and courses in my country. For me personally, I already knew that I wanted to stay in my city of Berlin, so I kind of narrowed down the search to Berlin. But you do you. Do you want to apply to a school wherever it is in your country? Do you want to stay in your city or area? Or are you even considering moving countries or continents even and apply to schools internationally? So as a first step, obviously Google will be your best friend, but also now we have tools like ChatGPT, so I advise you to use them. Let's maybe test it out together. Hey, can you name the photography schools in Germany for me?
Sure. Some well-known photography schools in Germany include the Berlin University of the Arts, the Hochschule für Grafik und Buchkunst in Leipzig, and the Folkwang University of the Arts in Essen.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. If you need more details about any of them, just let me know.
So once you have found the schools, I would advise you to go deeper into the research and actually look at the courses and curriculums that these schools are offering. Look at the teachers and what sort of backgrounds they have in photography. What are they specializing in? Are the areas that are offered within the course aligning with the areas that you are personally interested in? And also maybe look into who are some well-known alumni who actually went to the school. Because chances are, if you know some photographers who went to the school who are successful in their careers today, then that's a really good sign that the reputation of the school is good. Once you have completed your online research, I would go on to the next step and actually do some in-person research about the school. Most schools actually offer open days once or twice per year. I know that my school did, and it was the best decision ever to actually go to that open day and speak to people in person. Because not only will you get the vibe of the school, you also get to see the people who might be teaching you in the future. You get to ask some questions, and chances are that if it's a small school, you might get to make a first impression of yourself as well as a curious, interested student. The goal for all of this research is actually to make sure that the school and you are a good match, because there's no point in putting all this effort into your application if you don't know how you will feel about the school, and if you haven't really done your research and you're not sure what you're getting yourself into. A bonus tip for this as well is to actually contact some alumni and ask them about their experience at the school. So maybe you already know some people in person and have talked to them about the school, or maybe you can go on the social media page of that school, see maybe what type of photographers they're featuring, whose works they're featuring, and usually they feature some of the students' work online. And you can then go ahead and message those current students or maybe even alumni and ask them about their experience going through the course. Chances are that before you go on to photography school, you will be upgrading your photography gear and maybe stepping up your game a little bit. So that's where the sponsor of today's video comes from, and that is MPB. MPB is an online platform where you can buy used photography gear and also sell some of your used photography gear. It is the best place for photographers who want to upgrade their kit without breaking the bank and not spending a ton of money, but actually get the best deals out there. If you go onto their website, you will see that they have a wide selection of the newest camera bodies and lenses out there. It will clearly state the condition of each camera, and you can be sure that the experts of MPB are checking every single piece of equipment for you, so you don't have to worry about anything when making a purchase. They make shopping for a new camera so seamless and affordable, which is great, especially for students. And they also offer some special discounts if you currently are a student yourself. I'll link everything down below for you, and thank you to MPB for sponsoring this video. The first tip I have is to actually read the requirements of the school properly and check how many images they allow you to include in this portfolio anyway, and if they have any specific requirements for you, like you need to be submitting series or any specifics that the school has already provided, you need to be aware of them before crafting the portfolio. And once you have that down, I would say a really important piece of advice that I got myself back then is to actually aim to showcase your best sides and not to make the portfolio perfect. So I don't think it's a good strategy to try and show a little bit of everything, but actually really tailor your portfolio to the school, to you, and what you are best at. Also, an important point is to think about the course that you're applying for and to see if the portfolio sort of already goes into that direction. Doesn't mean that if you're applying to study documentary photography, for example, you already need to have a full portfolio of documentary projects, but it might be a good idea to not only have like architecture pictures in there or abstract art pictures in there if you're applying for something that's more documentary style or photojournalistic. In the process of putting together the portfolio, you might realize that you have some gaps in there and that you might not have enough work to put into a full portfolio. So my next tip would be to set yourself some mini assignments. So mini assignments are assignments that you can complete during one day, 1 week, or I would say a maximum of 2 weeks. So some examples of good mini self-assignments, if you are in dire need of some, is, for example, to photograph the local bodega owners in your area. You could make a little series and photograph all these different people, and it will not only be a good practice in photography, it will also be a good practice in approaching people that you want to photograph. Another example of an assignment would be, if you are really scared to approach strangers at this point, is to make a portrait series of 10 of your friends and really focus on not making like random pictures or random portraits of them, but find a style and stick to the style throughout the 10 portraits. Or if you can't find 10, do 6. And the last tip I have for crafting the best portfolio possible is to actually print out the pictures to make your sequence. I have an entire video on that topic on my channel where I showed you how I was applying actually to my photography school and sequencing my portfolio. So go and check that out after this video. But I would say the best way to sequence your portfolio is to actually have physical copies of the pictures and then put them up on the wall, changing around the sequence. Or maybe you can do it on the floor. I think I did it like on a table or on the floor back then. And once you have your sequence down, then you can go ahead and make your PDF. Because I think for most courses, you're not going to be sending in a physical portfolio, but you will be sending in a PDF portfolio. So the portfolio is usually just one segment of the application, just one part. And the other part that's really important is the cover letter and your CV. So what actually makes a good CV or cover letter? I would say the first tip is to actually make it visually appealing for people to read it. I mean, think about it. You are applying for a visual degree to study something artistic and visual. So it would make sense for you to make all parts of your application actually visually aesthetic and appealing. If you're not a gifted graphic designer and you don't know how to use InDesign, and I know that's me, I didn't really know how to do that, I would just go on Canva and use their free templates and pick something like not over the top, but like maybe classic and something that fits you and your personality. And then just use that to make it look good. The next point I want to make is to make sure that you're actually honest in your application and not only in your CV and what you have done before and your grades and all of that, but also in your cover letter. Don't make bold statements that are simply not true, but stick to the truth, and that will always get you far. In terms of the cover letter, I would say it's also really important to make your genuine motivation clear and not just to make generic statements. Examples of really generic statements are, I've always loved photography. I'm so passionate about photography. Well, duh. Everybody is who's applying for this course. Now, what makes you unique? What makes your life experiences unique? What makes something about your family unique, or how you got your first camera, or the first picture that you took on your camera? Or also think about what are your plans with your photography? What are you trying to say to the world? What are you trying to achieve? Where do you see yourself going with this? Talk about things that genuinely move you and that let people in and let people get to know you a little bit better, and not just sound like anybody else, any of the other hundreds and thousands of applicants that you will be competing against. And the more unique your story is, the better. If you have some crazy hobbies or pastimes that you want to explore photographically, name them. Anything that will help you stand out from the crowd is a good thing, and you should use it to your advantage in your cover letter or your CV. And also with this, I would say, don't try to hide your faults or deficits. We're all just human here. Nobody is perfect. So rather than trying to hide or obscure something that you don't like about yourself, maybe try to actually use it to your advantage as well. Like, for instance, say you haven't been doing photography for that long. That was the case when I was applying. I had been doing photography for only 2 years, and I was already in my 30s. I think I was around 30. And I knew that other people who are applying have probably been doing photography since they're little or something, right? So I told the story of how I got my first camera and started analog photography, and what drew me to actually photographing on an old analog camera instead of a modern digital camera at that point. So find some things and then twist them around, not too much, but a little bit. Twist them to show your best kind of sides without hiding your deficits too much, but actually serve them up on a platter and say, well, I know I have this thing that's not very good, but it's actually a good thing because of this and that. Before I go on to the next point, if you are getting some value from this video, please consider giving it a little tap on the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this one, and I'll be happy to see you around. Thanks so much. Okay, you got through the research, you did your whole application and your portfolio, you did some self-assignments, and you did all of the things. And now you have been invited to an in-person interview. So how do you nail an in-person interview? So if you know me, my motto in life is preparation is everything. And it's the same for this. So the first tip is to actually be very well prepared. And the first point is to actually bring a printed out copy of your CV, your cover letter, and even best, a physical copy of your portfolio. Because sometimes in their interview, they will be asking you questions, and it might be useful to cross-reference what you have actually written in your application and in your CV. Like, what year did I finish high school? What was my first job again? What did I do there? So, of course, you might know this by heart, but in an interview situation, we are often super nervous and we kind of blank out. So it is a little bit of a security thing to have these printed things with you, to hold on to them, and to be able to check and cross-reference if needed. But don't make the mistake of just gluing your eyes to the paper and looking at your CV the entire time. Look the interview person in their eyes, look up, have some confident body language, and try to relax a little bit into the situation. Even I know it's hard and it's nerve-wracking and everything, but think about it, it's the same for everybody. You got this, you can do this, you can get in. The next tip for the interview is to actually prepare for some interview questions. Some typical interview questions might be something like, so why did you decide to apply to our school in particular? It could also be something like, so what makes you want to study photography? Or, so which parts of the course in our school are you most interested in? And which parts maybe not so much. You can do some practice questions with maybe a parent or maybe your friends, or even if you don't have anybody or you're too shy, just use ChatGPT to prompt some questions and then type out the answer. Just practicing these things will get rid of some of the nerves and you will have some answers ready in the situation and not have to come up with something in the moment. But chances are not only will they be asking you questions, they will also expect for you to be prepared, know a little bit about the school, and ask some intelligent questions yourself. So the next step would be to prepare some questions that you might have. I would say a list of like maybe 3 to 5 questions is enough. It's also okay to write them down on a piece of paper or a notebook and bring that along to the interview. And once they ask you, so do you still have any questions for us? It is usually a really good sign if an interviewee has prepared some questions and is genuinely interested to learn something about the school, the course, the teachers, or something special like, oh, will I be able to work part-time? I have this job that I also do like to finance my degree. Will I have some time to work part-time, or like how does the degree structure? Or maybe even like, can you recommend me some alumni that I could like contact and ask some more questions to? Maybe you can put me in touch with somebody. Would that be okay? Think about these things in advance and come prepared to the interview. And I'm sure you'll be able to nail it and get in and have the best time studying photography as I have been having over the past years. So I will link the next video that could be interesting to you up here, and I'll speak to you in my next one. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.